All right, hello, good afternoon, and thank everybody for joining us. My name is Andrew Chrisman. I'm one of the reporters for Senior Housing News. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Feel free to type and submit questions as you have them, and we'll get to as many as we can during the webinar. A recording of the presentation and slides will be made available after the conclusion of today's webinar, so please look out for an email with a link to the slides and instructions for accessing those materials. Thank you, EasyShifts, for sponsoring this panel on self-scheduling, its benefits, and best practices. We have three great panelists joining us this afternoon to talk about it. Chad Liptoe serves as the Executive Director for Maple Crest Manor. He leads the executive leadership team, providing organizational guidance and critical input on the strategic direction of both businesses. He has more than 30 years of work experience in healthcare, and the last 12 have been in senior living. Chad serves on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Assisted Living Association, whose mission is to support assisted living facilities through advocacy, education, and service. Joel Moyer is CEO of New Care Senior Living, operating 8 senior living communities in Wisconsin. Joel has been in senior living for 25 years with a primary focus on memory care services. Joel is a member of the Wisconsin Assisted Living Association Board of Directors. He also is an instructor for the State of Wisconsin Administrator Certification course. And Michael Christensen is the founder of EasyShifts with a vision of giving healthcare workers flexibility over their work schedule so they can pick up casual shifts and ease the administrative burden on schedulers. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Thanks, Andrew. So happy all of you could join. Perhaps you've wondered, what is self-scheduling, right? Or you've thought, if we tried that here, it would just be pure chaos. Well, let us reassure you that it really works. It's interesting, way back in 2008, there was a really interesting article published in this nursing management journal by Leslie Blewett. So these ideas go back pretty far. In fact, there's journals going back to the late 80s and early 90s discussing the topic of self-flexible scheduling. One thing she said here is, one way to promote staff retention is through the use of self-scheduling. The ability of staff members to choose the day and shift they'll work following predetermined criteria that ensures appropriate unit staffing. Self-scheduling offers nursing staff the opportunity to be autonomous and in charge of their work schedules, promoting accountability and responsibility that lead to job satisfaction and personal growth. So it's really interesting, those comments made then, they're still true today in 2024. This article kind of goes on. Another part, she mentions the benefits outweigh the risks. While there are risks involved with any project, self-scheduling can be a successful system with many benefits to the organization. So it's interesting, these comments were made way back in 2008. Well, EasyShifts, incidentally, went live originally in 2008. Initially here in the state of Wisconsin, and now we're nationwide and even in other countries as well. But we were created, invented by an RN who also wanted that flexibility and the access to their work schedule to be able to have an element of control over that. And since then, we've really been a pioneer in the space of self-scheduling. And with 16 years of doing this, we've helped so many hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, senior living organizations implement self-scheduling successfully. And we've learned a lot of things along the way. We've also learned how important it is to foster a healthy work culture and how the use of self-scheduling really plays a vital role in developing that culture. So let us reassure you that self-scheduling really does work. So if you're new to the topic of self-scheduling, I thought first off, we could talk about what it actually is. What is self-scheduling? So I'm going to turn over to kind of Joel. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Michael. So to clarify a little bit, I'm going to just highlight a few things that self-scheduling is not, and some of the fears that people have from using a tool that allows you to self-schedule. And so first of all, it's not a chaos system with no structure and losing control of everything from who's working what hours and overtime. And so you have systems in place so that you can control your overtime, control who's working shifts. And just like any system you'd use, you'd have rules and parameters set in place. And it also allows you to set which shifts can be chosen through the self-scheduling, that it's not just weekday shifts. You can include weekend shifts or weekend shifts only. A lot of different ways to structure it that work for your organization. And because the system can be set up with the rules that work for you, it really allows you to keep a pretty firm grip on everything, so it doesn't just fall apart. And hey, I'll just turn over to Chad. Chad, you can talk a little bit more about how you use it, and what it really is to mean to do self-scheduling.
Sure. When I think of self-scheduling, I think of it as a tool. It's a tool that's available to our employees. It really is about our employees. We all have different priorities, whether we're juggling medical appointments, kids' schedules, sporting events, attending music recitals and such. Self-scheduling allows employees to schedule their work schedule around their busy lives instead of scheduling their lives around their work. And so it also frees up the employer to be directing their attention to maybe other more important matters. So it really is a tool that we can be using. I use sort of a hybrid model of self-scheduling in my own facility.
Yeah, it also allows approvals. So, the people that are in charge of scheduling, managing overtime, other things, can approve those requests of picking up shifts to make sure that you're, that nobody's going into overtime, nobody's adding extra shifts that shouldn't be picked up by that particular person or that particular time. So yeah, with the approval process that's built into a system, you really do maintain control.
Yeah, good thoughts. I liked everything you both said. Like one thing Joel mentioned or Chad mentioned is that it's not really absolutes, right? Like you don't have to be full on, let everybody do whatever they want. You can roll this out in different degrees of whatever works for your organization or where you happen to be. Trust is built gradually. So as you see positive results from using a self-scheduling process and a system, you can do more and more and more with it as you kind of build that trust in the system. So Chad had mentioned using a hybrid scheduling. I thought maybe we could do a little bit of a breakdown and kind of showing kind of the range of what that could be like. Our first slide here is just kind of an image of what would be described as full open scheduling. So with self-scheduling, you typically would start with some sort of a template schedule, some sort of a master schedule. Depending on the organization, that could be a 1-week schedule. It could be up to a 12-week schedule. It really depends on how your rotation works for you. Full open scheduling would be, you have the resource slots set aside. So as you see on this particular schedule, there's 2 LPNs a day, there's 3 RCAs, or you could call them CNAs per day. You may have an activities shift. So you know the resources you need, and you create that in the template. When this gets pushed out to the current week or the future week, it's copied over to an actual week, and then from that point forward, your staff can start picking it up. So everything would begin open. That's full open scheduling. But however, hybrid scheduling is somewhere in the middle, right? So you could assign everything on your master template and then just roll that template out, but then there wouldn't be much opportunity for picking up open shifts. It would be only trading or coworkers helping each other. But hybrid scheduling is somewhere in the middle. A common thing we see is maybe they assign out the weekends and Friday evenings, like you see in the example here on screen, but while leaving Monday to Friday open. A lot of our customers do that, or some, when they first begin, even have more assigned than even this. So it really kind of depends on your organization. As you roll out, you can start with more what your current rotation is, and then gradually over time start opening up more and more off the template and seeing how the staff engage with that. So what is the key to really making all this work, right? So I'll tell you in all honesty, it's really not the software. The software is a tool just like anything, right? The software is just a tool. There's a lot more that goes into really having success with this. So what do you think, Chad? What do you think is involved in really making this successful? As you've successfully rolled this out for the past 8 years at your organization?
Right. To make self-scheduling work, it really needs to be a team effort. You want buy-in from your employees, and it needs to be presented to them to show them how it benefits them. There are certain elements that need to be in place whenever you do something new like this. Mike, you already mentioned trust. There's trust between the employees and their managers, trust between the managers and the employees, and even employee to employee. There's a trust. So it really is a mutual respect, and it really comes down to company culture. Culture is really everything when it comes to self-scheduling.
Yeah, that's really true. And we just keep hearing that over and over and over again, don't we, over the years past, how that culture matters. It's been said in the past that respect is a two-way street, right? So as an employer, you want your staff to show up on time. You don't want them to call in last minute. But it's interesting, this quote of a longtime customer of ours. She's been using EasyShifts for over 15 years. And they've embraced a full open scheduling model for that entire time. And here's what she had to say about it. She said, "We have a culture where everybody understands teamwork, embraces new employees, is open and welcoming." She says, "And it's also a big part of why self-scheduling policy through EasyShifts works for us, because people want to help each other out." So one thing she's always emphasized is the respect, right? So for her, they expect the coworkers to show respect to each other. The organization shows respect to the employees, and then in turn, the employees show respect and responsibility back to the place where they work. So it is a two-way street. This really empowers the staff, builds respect among the team, and helps everyone to forge a better working relationship with each other. We see this time and again, this idea. It's been said too that, you expect maybe in your senior care facility that you're primarily caring for the residents, right? And it's true that for the caregivers, that is their primary job responsibility. But you as the managers, you as the leaders and the owners of those facilities, your duty primarily is to care for your staff, to show them respect, and to forge this positive culture, because they in turn will take care of your residents. But notice how Cheryl, she really emphasizes this idea of respect. Any additional thoughts on that, Chad or Joel?
Well, I can start and just tell you that residents and families know right away if we're taking care of our employees or not. It shows in the care that they're receiving, and they can feel it in our atmosphere of our building. It's one of the reasons that they actually choose to move in by us. So I've had employees that have come from facilities that didn't always have a good reputation. And once they've started working at Maple Crest with us, and they see what a positive work culture can be like, they become kind of our best referral sources for new employees. You do have to be careful if you bring somebody in from a facility that maybe was part of a bad culture, or they had a bad experience at. Sometimes it takes a little while to build that trust, but your own employees can be the best referral source for you with bringing on new employees.
Yeah, excellent. Joel, do you happen to have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think ultimately when you're building your culture of your community, you're trusting these people with the lives of grandmothers and grandfathers and other individuals. So giving them some flexibility in how they schedule their time to do that works around their family, their lifestyle, can allow you to hire some caregivers who have the need for a unique schedule each week, where they can fill in around other people's schedule. And by giving them that flexibility and that respect, that's how you get the respect back, and can create a pretty amazing team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we see that said, it's being said over and over again, right? We have to focus on culture. You have to be aware of the perception that you have within the community. The outside world needs to see you as a compassionate employer that actually cares about their employees. And if you do, you'll experience like what Chad described, where they're coming to work for you. They'll be the kind of place that your staff want to work. When you have that happy culture, they're happy to work there. They want to be there. We've heard stories of places where caregivers were just miserable at their job because of the way the organization operated, but they stayed because they cared about the residents and they wanted to provide good care for the residents. They develop a personal attachment to them, so they want to provide good care to the residents. But again, as leaders in this industry, we need to make it our focus to create the kind of work environment and culture where they can really thrive. So any other thoughts, either of you, on that topic of respect and responsibility before we move on?
I think people are often are more comfortable with using technology as a tool. Healthcare and senior living in particular has been pretty slow in adapting technologies, and at this point in time, it's really become a necessity as opposed to a could or should type scenario, where we have to be doing something in order to keep up with other industries, other types of positions these individuals could take in other companies or other industries. So we have to be flexible if we're going to want the best team possible to care for the grandmothers and grandfathers that live in our communities.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Okay, so great. So we got a little bit of an idea of kind of what needs to take place, the importance of the culture, a little bit of what self-scheduling is. Now we're going to go into a little bit of a deeper dive into what really takes place with self-scheduling. You can accomplish this with our system, EasyShifts. I mean, there's other systems out there that accomplish this to varying degrees. We're kind of going to cover a little bit of a high level, and this is going to have a lot of video and a lot of images because we don't want to bore you. We want you to really be able to see with your eyes what's taking place. And of course, this is recorded, so if you want to go back and rewatch any of this, you're welcome to do so. So we mentioned earlier that when you first post a schedule, that we showed the example of both full open or hybrid. It all starts off a master schedule of some sort. You have a predefined template. It could be a 1 to 12 week rotation that you build out. And in EasyShifts, that's configured as a full template. So you've got the entire Sunday to Saturday, overnight works like a charm. And then you can take any of those weeks and copy them out to the actual week. So we're just going to kind of show a little 30-second video that kind of shows what that process is like what work the administrator actually has to do to create a live schedule. And you'll find it's actually quite easy. So here's again what we call our bird's eye view. You can see the next 52 weeks of the year on the screen. There's checkboxes for whether or not the week is created or published. This creates the opportunity for the administrator to create the week and then make some last minute changes to it before it becomes published and available to their staff. So enjoy the video. So you see here, weeks being created. This next week is being created. And then now they're going to go click into the current week. So now this went from the template, but it's been copied out to the actual week. And here's the second week that was created. All right. So again, as Andrew mentioned at the onset, there's going to be a Q&A session at the end of this 15 minutes. So if anything there you didn't quite catch it, you can drop a question and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. So another piece to this is that, well, once this schedule's posted, right? So let's say you decide to go a hybrid approach, and now you've got Monday to Friday open shifts, and what do you do, right? Typically our customers do different things. Some will post their weeks out 4 weeks ahead. Some go as far as 8 to 10 weeks ahead. Some even do 3 months ahead, kind of depending. Like some of our long-term users tend to push it out further in the future. But some who are kind of adopting it more recently maybe opt to go more like a 4 weeks ahead. But it kind of creates a little bit of anxiety. Like, okay, now I've got all these open shifts. Are they really going to fill them? Well, we're going to show a little video of like what happens for that shift pickup process. So on the right side, you're going to see like our mobile app, and this would be an employee interacting with the mobile app to pick up shifts. On the left side, you're seeing the changes on what we call our department schedule. Play this video. So again, we see our CNA Ida. She's scrolling through. She's finding herself a Monday shift. She chooses to pick it up. There, she's filled that afternoon shift on Monday, and now she's looking for another shift. She finds a Tuesday shift, and she picks that shift up, and just like that, the shift's filled. She can look at her personal schedule, and she can see immediately that she now has those shifts assigned on her own personal schedule. So beautiful. It's very simple for the, after all, our whole model was to be as easy as possible. So it's very easy for the staff to come in there with very little training to go in there and start picking up shifts. So we see how easy it is for the staff. Well, we thought it'd be helpful to you to be able to visualize this if we would kind of model a demonstration off of like a real customer's example. Now, this isn't their real data, but it's modeled after what has been happening routinely for them for the last 10, 15 years. So we've got some customers, as I mentioned, that will post their schedule as far ahead as 8 to 10 weeks ahead with almost the entire thing open. And what's really fascinating is we can look at the logs and confirm the fact that within a matter of 2 to 3 days, that entire schedule is full. So we'll have a little kind of time-lapse video that shows this. So just enjoy this. So we're starting with a hybrid example here, but over time, the staff, every hour goes by, now an hour goes by, a few more shifts are filled, a few more shifts are filled. Maybe some trades happen. Some staff trade with each other. Maybe they put one up for grabs and get their coworker to take it for them. So there's a lot of changes taking place, well enough into the future. And what you end up settling on after the schedule is full is you have a schedule that your team has chosen for themselves. This is the schedule that they wanted. And because it's the schedule that they wanted, you're not going to have those last minute call-ins. You're not going to have the dissatisfaction and the grumbling because they were active collaborators with each other. So there in 30 seconds, we got to see an entire week of a schedule filled in a 2-day period. Our next piece of content here is just kind of going to talk a little bit about, Joel touched on this earlier. We need to, you adopt a system like this and your first reaction might be like, it's going to be chaos. Like, what do we do? Well, the software itself, it's very helpful if it has tools in place to kind of detect conflicts and prevent them from even happening. So this image here, what we're seeing is just an example of overtime conflict prevention. So on a given week, you could block overtime if you choose to. You can allow it. And during COVID, I'd say a lot of them allowed it. But now we're kind of getting into a healthier time period where this is being used again more. And if you have it turned off, if they would go into overtime, they will be blocked. They'll get this message on their mobile app that says pickup was prevented. And likewise, if you intentionally schedule them into overtime, right in the schedule, you can visualize who's in overtime. So those red marks make it easy to visualize. You also notice that the little info dot icon in the corner of each shift shows that shift was changed since it was initially published from the template. So you can click into a shift, you can see all the different changes. There's a lot of other types of conflicts that can be detected. We can have overlap conflicts, like if you tried to schedule them simultaneously at another building, you might have a PRN or a casual that works for you and they work at 2 different buildings. Well, this can help prevent scheduling conflicts between those 2 buildings. If they have assigned time off that's conflicting, it'll detect that, prevent that. There's overtime conflict. We already talked about that. If they have availability in their profile, maybe they have it marked in their profile that they're not available Friday evenings or something for whatever reason, it'll detect those conflicts as well. So you don't have to keep all that in your mind. You can just let the software do that for you. Of course, here you see an example on the right of an administrator attempting to assign Leslie here to a shift, and it says she's unavailable because she already has a shift assigned to her at the same time interval. So these kind of warnings will go out to the administrator as well. And there's a lot of different settings that go into this to be able to tune it to what your organization wants to do. Another key important factor that goes into self-scheduling is just keeping everyone on the same page. Notifications, again, you go into a shift, you can see the history of all the changes that happened to it, who made the change, what change took place. Notifications go out to the relevant people. If a shift is opened up that can be worked by the CNA, the CNAs that are eligible will get that notification and be invited to come pick it up. If somebody tries to go into overtime and they're blocked, the administrator gets the notification that somebody tried that. Maybe they would decide to go in there and approve it, so they can still allow it. So there's dozens, there's like 40, 50 different types of notifications that EasyShifts can send out depending on different changes to the schedule. Again, all the changes are tracked in an activity log. You can go through here and search it, see who did what changes took place. Very, very helpful to stay on top of things as an administrator, because a lot of changes are happening. Maybe you go to bed at night and you wake up in the morning and you come to work and you see there was 50 changes that happened to the work schedule, right? Everybody's filling the shifts for you. You can keep track of everything that took place since the last time you looked at EasyShifts. Again, time off requests are a common thing within the software system, managing that. There's a couple different ways our administrators like to handle this. Like, we have some that like to just tell their staff, you're responsible to find your own replacement. If you want to take off 2 weeks from now, I'll approve it if you don't have any shifts. So if they can first trade away all their shifts to their coworkers, the administrator will come in here. If they do not see any time off conflict with existing shifts, they'll approve it. Other options is it'll show you the conflicts, and you can make the choice to just say, I want to mark them all to open and notify anyone that's eligible to pick up these shifts that have now been marked open. So that might be a scenario like if it's 7-8 weeks in the future, maybe that's the better route. But if it's maybe only 4 weeks away, you might choose to instead say, hey, maybe you should find a replacement first, so that I'm not hunting down somebody to fill in for you. So that's kind of a nice little, quick deep dive into some of the aspects that go into self-scheduling. Another thing that's really popular is just the concept of partial shifts. Again, it's like you might start with an 8-hour or a 12-hour shift. That's something I know, Chad, like you've had a lot of success with using partial shifts in your organization. We have partial shifts. The employee can put the partial shift up for grabs. They can pick up a partial shift from open, so maybe they can only take a few hours of that shift. Did you have any thoughts, Chad, on how that's been helpful?
Well, I always let people pick up partial shifts. If it's an open shift and it's an 8-hour shift, to me, it just matters that everything is covered. It doesn't matter to me if it's 4 people each picking up 2 hours or 2 people picking up 4 hours each. If somebody picks up 4 hours and nobody picks up the other 4 hours, then my manager only has to find somebody for that other 4 hours. So I always let people know right away that if you can only help us out with partial shifts, to go for it. That's helpful for us. It's helpful for the employees that may be trying to find somebody to take their shifts or to put a shift up for grabs. So.
Yeah, and it's great. It's like maybe they can't find somebody to work the full 8 hours, but they can find 2 people to each work 4, right? So It just kind of gives you a little bit more fluidity in your scheduling process. And of course, it's important because the employees get that sense of control. It's psychology, right? It's psychology because if it's not about how many hours they work, but it's about their attitude around it. So if they feel like they chose this and they're in control of their life, they're gonna feel a lot better about it versus just finding out their boss calls them late at night on a weekend saying, hey, can you come in Saturday night to fill in for us? That's really what we're trying to avoid by getting ahead of it, by putting the information out there for the staff. The majority of the shifts end up being covered well in advance by the people that want to work them. And then you greatly reduce last minute call-ins and absence. And even if you do have those last minute call-ins or absence, the system itself has tools to send out the notifications to get somebody to come in for you. So that's a nice little deep dive. If you want to learn more, of course, you can reach out to us at EasyShifts. We'd love to schedule a demo with you to show you a bit more detail about some of these features. But to get back to our concluding section here, we just want to talk a little bit about how this self-scheduling process really can benefit the organization itself. And we touched a little bit about that. We talked about culture, we talked about employee involvement, but what benefits do you see within an organization when they've implemented these types of systems and policies?
I can start, and I can tell you that at Maple Crest, what I do is I start right during the employee interview by showing them EasyShifts. It's almost like a recruitment tool. I bring it up right on my screen and share it with them. And I've had people tell me that they've gone and told their friends, you need to check out Maple Crest because they use a scheduling program. You get to kind of pick up some of your own shifts. So I think in terms of how it benefits the organization, we all know nursing and caregiving is hard work. It's not an easy job. I believe that employees want to work for an employer who understands that and offers tools to them to make their job easier. And I also believe that employees want employers who support their values and both their personal and professional goals too. And I think self-scheduling is one of the ways to show that you care about the employees. And so I think it's really been embraced by the employees that I have. I very seldom have to get involved with any kind of scheduling pieces at this point. For supervisors, it gives them more time to manage the other day-to-day responsibilities that they have when they don't have to worry about schedules, which leads to more efficient operations in our business. It increases staff and resident and family satisfaction, which ultimately leads to better care for our employees and ultimately optimizes our bottom line. So it's an empowerment tool.
Yeah, awesome. Did you have any thoughts on that, Joel?
Yeah, I think as I kind of mentioned before, the flexible scheduling that employees have by choosing some of their shifts allow you to hire people that wouldn't otherwise be able to work for you. So you have students, people doing other things, mothers with children at home and different schedules during different times of the year. Maybe during summer, they have less flexibility, but during the school year, they have things going on. They have more availability. People wanting to pick up more hours during the holiday seasons. There's just a lot of different ways that you can fill in your schedule with employees when those employees can control when they want to work, and you're not putting a manager with a laundry list of requests for certain times of the day, certain days of the week, certain parts of the month where they can and cannot work. So it really provides everyone with a lot of flexibility to fill in those otherwise holes in the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And with what both of you said, Joel or Chad even mentioned how it improves the bottom line. I think this is probably a good time for us to clarify that at EasyShifts, we do not provide any temp labor, right? So sometimes people confuse that. There's been a lot of companies that popped up in the last couple of years that that want to sell you actual labor. And those types of services have basically bankrupted our industry. Ours is a software for your own team, for your own staff. In fact, we've seen great results of organizations using our system, not needing any outside agency or temp labor. Would you say that's the case, Chad?
Yeah, I've never used outside labor at all at Maple Crest. I've always been able to fill shifts. Sometimes it's contacting employees and cracking deals and doing what we need to do. But for the most part, the employees really go in and they work that schedule. They go in and pick up hours, they trade hours to make sure that everything is covered. So it really comes back to the culture.
Yeah, and I think at EasyShifts, we feel it's a beautiful thing if you can provide that yourself, right? If you've ever talked to any of the nurses or caregivers that switch to work with any of those apps that offer, travel nurse services or they call themselves an app marketplace because they don't want to be called an agency, but effectively the same thing. It's still, you're paying for temp labor. The reason they go to that is because they get flexibility. They can, it's like if somebody wants to drive Uber, they can turn the app on and they can pick up a ride, they can turn it off and then they don't work. It's like a gig kind of thing. So they get that flexibility. But, since 2008, we've made it possible for a healthcare organization to provide that flexibility to their own staff. So there isn't that draw for them to leave and work through those other methods. Like we would prefer that you're able to hire and retain your own staff and for them to be able to have their work-life balance. And as life progresses for many caregivers and nurses, maybe they, I've got a good friend that's an administrator at a nursing home. She's had her third child and she had to switch roles from a skilled nursing to an assisted living and kind of have a reduced role as her family obligations increase. So people's lives change. And if you're able to facilitate a scheduling system that allows their life, you're going to keep the best talent. You're going to keep them happy and engaged. They're going to be able to achieve work-life balance and you're going to have a positive culture. When you have that positive culture, people all want to work for you. Sometimes the hard decision is that you need to get rid of somebody that's maybe displaying some toxic traits that's causing you to lose staff. But it's a scary thing to do when everybody's operating so short-staffed. But these are research has shown that employees who can self-schedule just have a greater satisfaction, and it leads to a lot of benefits to the organization. And ultimately, better care for the residents, and the financials improve as well. So it's not an overnight change, but it's a change that can be implemented and has been successful for decades to do that. All right, so Chad or Joel, any last thoughts on benefits for the organization?
Yeah, if you have more than one location or you have multiple departments, being able to, assign different employees with different skill sets may be able to work in different locations or different departments so they can have access to schedules that are more difficult to share using other methods. And then the other thing is it really allows you to have more part-time employees, where people can pick up shifts, and maybe they're a full-time caregiver somewhere else, but want to pick up some shifts at your company, and they don't have to come to the building. They don't have to call in. They can just check their phone and see shifts that may be open on a more casual basis. And especially if you have partial shifts, different things, it really allows, where in the past, if you were using paper schedule or some other methods, it always seemed like a pain to have more part-time employees. But with this, those part-timers can really help avoid some overtime that is caused when you have a lot of full-time employees that are working, all 40 hours already in a schedule.
Yeah, exactly. If you're able to have a few casual team members, that's a great help because they can kind of fill in those gaps in the schedule, and that we've seen that to be very successful across all segments. Assisted living, skilled, and hospitals all do something very similar. Especially if you have buildings that are fairly close together, you can you can float your staff between multiple buildings if you need to as well. And it's a really helpful thing. So yeah, there's many benefits. We had a webinar a year ago. We talked about a lot of these things. We went deeper into the retention and recruitment aspects of things. This one, we were trying to focus more on just walking you through the basics of self-scheduling, because interestingly, I attended the Women in Distinction event in Chicago a few weeks ago, and one of the panelists mentioned if only we could figure out self-scheduling. Well, that was a month ago, and they're now a customer of ours. So we know there's still some out there that have not tried self-scheduling. Maybe they have doubts or concerns, but we're here to reassure you that it really does work. And we've got 16 years experience of helping healthcare organizations make a success of this. So we're more than happy to help you as well. So please get in touch with us. We'd love to show you how we can do this with your organization. So that's it for our presentation. I'll give it back over to Andrew.
Okay, just a quick reminder that if you have questions for our panelists, please feel free to use our Q&A box to get those over to us, and we'll make sure to get them answered. If you're watching this on demand, you can still go ahead and submit questions, and we'll be able to follow up with you at a later time. So first and foremost, Michael, everything about EasyShifts sounds great, but where can people get started? Some people have a set schedule. How do you combine those, or how do you combine EasyShifts with those that already have a set schedule?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Just kind of how can people get started with EasyShifts? Some have a set schedule, and how do you combine EasyShifts with those that might already have a set schedule?
Gotcha. Chad or Joel, did you want to take a stab at it, or if not, I could?
I can answer that. I have some people that have set schedules that work for me, and I also have casual part-time people that just pick up hours when they're available. And so with a tool like EasyShifts and giving them the ability to go in to pick up shifts, it makes it real easy, especially during those transition periods. Rarely does it ever happen that I have somebody that might leave employment with us and I have somebody right there ready to go. That would really always be a dream. But with a tool like EasyShifts, those open shifts just show up, and other employees, our casual employees, our part-time employees, and if we have our overtime open, our full-time employees can even go in to pick up those shifts to help us get through. So it does work well whether you have set schedules or are more of a fully open kind of a schedule.
Yeah, so to kind of add on to that a little bit, so if somebody has a set schedule, you would just put that in the template that way, right? Like they would just be set into the template with their set schedule. When it's posted, they have their normal schedule, and everyone just kind of fills in around them. So it can work at any degree that you need it to work.
Okay, we just got a question from the audience that asks, can you create a rule in EasyShifts that prevents employees who are already at 40 hours from picking up in order to mitigate overtime?
Yes, you can. Yeah, in fact, we had I believe it was this slide. Jump back to this earlier slide. So you actually can configure however many hours you want overtime to be. There's some customization that there can be with that. Supporting both 40 hours a week with the standard, FLSA method, or also the 8 and 80 method, which applies to healthcare workers, also is supported. If they try to pick up a shift that goes over the 40 hours, they'll get this message that says shift is prevented. It would result in overtime. But as I also mentioned earlier, the manager gets the notification, so they know that somebody tried to go into overtime. So the manager may make a decision that they still want that person to get that shift into overtime if there's a specific need. And this image over here, if I recall too, I hope it doesn't play the video, but this screen here where all the weeks are created, there's another checkbox off to the right that says lockout overtime. So what some of our customers will do as the week rolls forward is maybe the current week, they'll allow overtime, but they won't allow overtime in the future weeks, just because maybe they're trying to get shifts covered. So you can kind of roll that out progressively, or you can just completely lock it out and then decide as you get the notifications if you want to allow that overtime or not. Hopefully that covered the question.
I believe so. The next question that we have is, what if I don't have enough staff as it is?
Well, what this allows you to do is, if you don't have enough staff and you're going to have to use overtime, this can notify people that there are open shifts. Actively notify them so that they do have the opportunity to pick up some shifts to help out. And it may be just a temporary situation because there's some people that are, in the process of being interviewed or onboarding, but aren't ready to work alone on the floor. So, talking to your employees, and, you sometimes need to give them an incentive. Sometimes it's overtime. Sometimes there's other incentives you can give them to ask them to pick up a shift. But this just makes the schedule more open and available to employees so they can see what's open. And hopefully you can create those incentives that may get them to pick up shifts by communicating within the app.
Yeah, and I think it also can become a powerful marketing tool to find more hires. I know, Chad, you shared with me a story last year about what you do in your interview process and how.
Yeah. I use it right during the employment interview and show them, and I pull out my phone and have the app on my phone, show them how easy it is to pick up shifts, because it seems like nearly everybody during the interview says, well, I love to pick up overtime. I love to work 12-hour shifts. So I show them how easy it is. And sometimes we get an employee that once they're working for us, they aren't always as eager to do that. But usually this generates some excitement about the schedule and how easy it is to do this. And I talk about the flexibility of being able to work around events that they may have with kids and being able to pick up partial shifts. And so I really do use it as a tool. I talk about other technology that we use too, because so many, especially of the younger applicants that we're seeing, they really embrace technology for everything. So
it helps you have greater success actually hiring people, because when in an interview, they don't guarantee they're going to work for you at that point, right? Sometimes someone interviews and then they go work for somebody else. So this helps increase your success rate with actually hiring people from an interview. And I know, Chad, you mentioned to me too that you've had experiences where people have told their friends, like you had made a hire and then they actually kind of tell their friends about what it's like working with Maplecrest, and it's been kind of a recruitment tool in that sense too.
Yeah, that's happened several times now, that people have contacted caregivers that they're working with, that they have worked with at other facilities, and talked about that they sort of do the recruiting for potential employees in a lot of ways. So it's been a real helpful tool to have a program like EasyShifts.
Okay, next question that we have is, how will it affect my bottom line?
Well, ultimately, by having control over who's picking up shifts and having the rules built into the system, you're going to be able to potentially reduce or eliminate your overtime. That's one of the things. Also, by having your schedule templates and the flexibility in those templates as your occupancy or census fluctuates, you also have some ability to add partial shifts or takeaway hours if needed. So the bottom line is affected drastically in the flexibility that you have to flex up and flex down your labor hours.
Do you have any thoughts, Chad? Or
I think looking more at even a bigger picture, I think it comes back to that culture that we have in the company, where we talked earlier about how our residents and families know right away if we're taking care of our employees. And so the residents and families talk to other residents and families, potential residents and families. And so if they are happy, that word of mouth marketing to get referrals for resident move-ins certainly affects the bottom line as well.
And you get better private pay mix, right?
Right. So.
Yeah, so that was another way. And just a few things that popped in my mind. We mentioned earlier reduction of the usage of outside agency because you're better able to cover your shifts with your own team. I mean, the rates have gotten crazy for some of those. This was even before COVID. I remember being told that it's cheaper to have an RN work a CNA shift than it was to hire a CNA through an agency. Just the costs are just ridiculous. And then it got even worse during COVID. I mean, I think there were so many facilities we talked to where the DON, maybe still to this day, the DON is covering CNA shifts. Well, if you can implement a system like this, hopefully that is greatly reduced how often that happens. There's an incredible amount of time saving from administrative things. So the administrator is able to spend much less time on the schedule. So many times our customers will just have somebody who's kind of oversees the training of new CNAs, just takes care of the scheduling. And again, it's maybe a few minutes a month of administrative work to actually get the schedules posted. But then they're able to focus their time on other things. So there's just a lot of time saved there that can be spent on more important matters. And then additionally, through our integrations we have an integration with Point Click Care. We also have an integration with Eldermark that pulls in information about your current census. And you can kind of see if you're staffing at an appropriate level to the current census you're seeing. And also there's reports that you can retrieve to see just, do you have the level of CNAs or RNs or LPNs that the state would like to see? So that can also help too, so that you're staffing at an appropriate level according to your budgeting process. So I'm sure there's a lot of other ways that it helps the bottom line, but those are just a few.
Okay, I want to give folks just a little bit longer that if they have any additional questions for any of our panelists, please feel free to go ahead and submit those. But other than that, I think we can begin starting to wind down. So I just want to give people just a little bit longer.
I think we got about 5-6 minutes left, so we're happy to sit around and wait for your questions. Okay. If you have any more.
Michael, here's one that I just have for you really quick. When people have been shown these, I know that we've already had a couple of references on where it's been used as a recruiting tool, that it has also been kind of like a good way to spread some word of mouth. But what has been the overall reception of employees and staff that have been able to utilize EasyShifts and being able to do their own kind of self-scheduling?
Oh, they're the happiest of all. They love it. We just recently attended an event last week, and just talking to one of our new customers, they're just overjoyed. The staff love it. That's a common thread. The staff truly love it, and they love when the employer embraces that type of a system. It just makes them, they're the first ones to be on board with it. It's interesting. One thing we've kind of learned is that with our process, we take the time to kind of set the customer up. We help them get whatever paper scheduling or system they're using into EasyShifts, get them up and running. We train the administrators, and we find that the staff really don't need training. They're generally, the technology is simple enough to use that they just get up and go with it right away. We get almost very little support inquiries from the users. Like we have top class support that we give to the administrators, and we give them personalized admin training to get them up and running. But once they're up and running, we see very little complaints or support problems. And there's just tons of 5-star reviews of our system on all the different places where reviews can be made, and the staff just love it.
I'd love to be able to loop Chad and Joel back in on this one as well. Just when you have new employees that are joining in, and if they're using this kind of system, how are they responding to this?
The employees that I've brought on love having an app to check their schedule. Before working with EasyShifts, what I was doing was I was using Excel and creating a schedule in Excel, and it was anytime there was a change, they'd have to run in and check the schedule. And here they get notifications. They know right away if something is open. It's almost like a race to who can get to certain shifts first. I actually, when I am bringing on a brand new employee, when I'm sitting down with them, when we sit down and fill out all that new hire paperwork, we actually take about a 10 to 15 minute period of time and go through EasyShifts with them and show them how to do different things, so that they can leave the building before they've even worked any kind of a shift with us, and they can go into EasyShifts and take a look at schedules and know how to pick up shifts for us.
Yeah, I would agree with Chad. It's very simple and intuitive, and it's the sooner you can show them how it works, the better. And they can, as Chad said, right in the interview, you can show them, oh, by the way, here's some actual shifts that are open, in a week or 2 weeks. And, you should have your training done by then. And there'll be some shifts available for you to pick up. Just to clarify and, be above board on what type of shifts are available on a regular basis, what is open. So again, it really does help build that trust at a very early spot in the relationship.
Okay, and it looks like we have just a couple of minutes left. Chad, Michael, Joel, I was just wondering, do you have any additional closing thoughts or insights that you might be able to share with our audience today?
I guess all I'd want to say is just thank you to everybody for being here, taking the time. Hopefully this was informative to kind of learn a little bit more about what self-scheduling is. If it's something you've kind of avoided in the past, maybe you were concerned, just rest assured that you can do it. And, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you. You can reach me by email, michael@easyshifts.com. You can also go to our website, easyshifts.com. And I believe Lindsay has loaded up a download where you can download a little bit of information about EasyShifts there as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, I think that is going to go ahead and bring us to the end of our session today. Panelists, thank you so much for being here. Everybody in the audience, thank you so much for attending. Thank you all. This has been fantastic. And the details will be sent out to you shortly afterwards. But again, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.